The Thanksgiving night when everything shattered, the sound of breaking china exposed every pretense of civility in my husband's family. My mother-in-law's hand struck across my face in front of 20 relatives, and that's when my 3-year-old son screamed, "Stop!" freezing the entire dining room. I pressed my napkin to the blood at the corner of my mouth and began planning my revenge, through law, through truth, and through money. My name is Lauren Pike, and I'm 29 years old, a data analyst at Northbridge Analytics in Maple Ridge. That Thanksgiving evening started like every other family gathering at my in-laws' sprawling colonial house, forced smiles, passive-aggressive comments disguised as concern, and my husband Ethan desperately trying to keep the peace between his mother and me. The dining room glowed with candlelight bouncing off Carol's prized crystal glasses. The ones she always mentioned cost more than most people's monthly rent. 23 relatives packed around the extended mahogany table, the air thick with roasted turkey and underlying tension. Carol sat at the head like a queen surveying her kingdom, her perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around her wine glass, eyes fixed on me with that familiar calculating look. "Lauren, dear," she began, her voice syrupy sweet but sharp as glass underneath. "Ethan tells me you're still refusing to add my name to your new condo's deed. After everything this family has done for you." The room's temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Forks paused mid-air. Even Uncle Robert stopped chewing his stuffing. Ethan's hand found mine under the table, squeezing a plea to stay calm. "It's our home, Carol. Ethan and I purchased it together." I kept my voice steady, though my pulse hammered in my ears. "Together." She laughed, a brittle sound that made Oliver look up from his mashed potatoes. "With whose connections, whose family name opened doors at that bank, you think your little analyst salary impressed them?" "Mom, please," Ethan started. "Don't, Mom, please me." Carol stood abruptly, her chair scraping against hardwood. "This ungrateful woman is poisoning you against your own family. She's using you, using our grandson." "That's enough!" I stood too, matching her stance. "You don't get to." The slap came fast. Her palm cracked across my cheek with such force that I stumbled backward, knocking into the sideboard. The gravy boat crashed to the floor, brown sauce splattering across white baseboards. The sting radiated through my jaw, and I tasted copper where my teeth had cut the inside of my cheek. "Stop!" Oliver's scream pierced the shocked silence. My 3-year-old son stood on his booster seat, face red, tears streaming. "Stop hurting Mommy! Stop!" The room froze like a photograph Aunt Martha's hand covering her mouth. Cousin Jim turning away, pretending to check his phone. But Cousin Stephanie, Ethan's youngest cousin, held her phone up slightly, and I caught the subtle red recording light. Carol smoothed her cashmere sweater, completely unbothered. "Perhaps now you'll learn your place in this family." I touched my lip, fingers coming away bloody. Around us, relatives began mumbling excuses, checking on dessert, needing air, anything to escape the scene. Only Stephanie remained steady, still recording, giving me the smallest nod when our eyes met. Ethan finally found his voice. "Mom, what have you done?" "I've done what you're too weak to do, put your wife in her place." Carol's voice was ice. She needs to understand how things work in the Pike family. I lifted Oliver from his seat, his small body trembling against mine. His favorite turkey-printed sweater was stained with gravy from the chaos. "We're leaving," I announced, my voice surprisingly calm despite the rage building in my chest. "You walk out that door, and you'll regret it." Carol called after us. "I control more than you think. Lauren, the college fund, the family trusts everything." I turned at the doorway, Oliver's weight heavy in my arms, and looked directly at her. "We'll see about that." The November air hit my burning cheek like a salve as we stepped outside. Behind us, through the dining room windows, I could see the family slowly returning to their seats, forks resuming their mechanical motion, pretending nothing had happened, just another Pike family dinner. But in my pocket, my phone buzzed. A text from Stephanie. Got everything. The slap, the threats, all of it. Let me know if you need this. I kissed Oliver's forehead as Ethan fumbled with the car keys, his hands shaking. It's okay, baby, I whispered to my son. Mommy's okay. But I wasn't okay. I was furious. And Carol Pike had just made the biggest mistake of her life. The drive home from that Thanksgiving disaster was silent except for Oliver's occasional hiccups from crying. Ethan's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, jaw clenched. 3 years of marriage, and this was where we'd ended up with his mother's handprint still burning on my cheek. She's never touched me before, I finally said as we pulled into our condo's garage. I know. God. Lauren. I'm so sorry. I never thought. But she's done everything else, hasn't she? The words tumbled out, years of suppressed frustration finally breaking free. Remember 6 months after our wedding, that family agreement she tried to make me sign? Ethan winced. The document had appeared at Sunday dinner, slid across the table between the pot roast and green beans. Carol had called it standard family protection, but I'd recognized it for what it was. A financial stranglehold giving her veto power over any major purchases, investments, or decisions about Oliver's future. You didn't sign it, Ethan reminded me weakly. No, but she's never forgiven me for it. I unbuckled Oliver's car seat, his small body already heavy with sleep. Remember when we enrolled Oliver in Little Learner's daycare instead of her friend's overpriced Montessori? She called me an unfit mother in front of your entire book club. Inside our condo, I settled Oliver in his bed, dinosaur nightlight casting green shadows on the wall. When I returned to the living room, Ethan was pouring whiskey neat, no ice. His hands still shook. Last month, I continued, accepting the glass he offered. She cornered me at Oliver's swimming lesson, said I needed to transfer his college savings to the Pike Family Holdings Fund for better management. When I refused, she said I'd regret it. She mentioned the college fund tonight. Ethan's voice was hollow. Lauren, you don't think she'd actually... My phone buzzed. An email from our bank, sent at 9:47 p.m. on Thanksgiving night. My blood ran cold as I read, Dear Ms. Pike, this confirms your recent authorization for account access changes to Oliver Pike Education Savings Account, ending in 4782. If you did not authorize this change, please contact us immediately. Ethan, my voice came out strangled. Check your email. He pulled out his phone, face paling as he read. This says we authorized Carol as a co-signer, but we never... She forged our signatures. The whiskey glass trembled in my hand. Or had someone do it for her? We spent the next 2 hours combing through financial documents, emails, and bank statements. The pattern emerged like a photograph developing in slow motion. 3 weeks ago, a mysterious inquiry on our mortgage. 2 weeks ago, an attempted password reset on our joint investment account. And now, this. There's more, Ethan said, laptop open on the coffee table. Mom sent this email to her attorney last Tuesday. I leaned over to read, moving forward with securing family assets. The daughter-in-law situation requires immediate intervention, prepared to utilize all available leverage regarding the trust distributions. What trust distributions? I asked. Ethan's face was grave. The Pike Family Trust. It's supposed to distribute to Oliver when he turns 18, but Mom controls it as trustee. She could delay it, add conditions, basically hold it hostage. How much? $200,000. My grandfather set it up for all great-grandchildren. I stood, pacing to the window. Outside, Maple Ridge slept peacefully, porch lights twinkling like stars. Normal families were probably still sharing pie, laughing over coffee, not planning financial warfare. She's been planning this, I said. The slap tonight, that was just her losing control for a moment, but the rest, she's been systematically trying to get her hooks into everything we own. The HOA complaints, Ethan said suddenly. Remember 3 citations in 2 months for ridiculous things: grass height, mailbox color, a single weed in the flower bed. Carol's on the HOA board. The pieces clicked together. She's been building a paper trail, making us look irresponsible, negligent. My phone lit up with another notification. Stephanie had sent the video from dinner. I watched Carol's hand connect with my face, watched Oliver scream, watched the family's cowardly silence, but I also noticed something else in the corner of the frame. Carol's assistant, Patricia, was visible through the doorway, taking photos of documents on the hall table. Our documents. The ones Ethan had brought to show his uncle about refinancing options. "Ethan," I said slowly, "I think your mother just declared war, and she has no idea what I'm capable of when someone threatens my child." He met my eyes, and for the first time since I'd known him, I saw his mother's steel in his gaze. "Then let's give her the fight she's asking for." Friday morning, 7:15 a.m. I sat at my desk at Northbridge Analytics, but my screens showed more than quarterly reports. Multiple browser tabs displayed bank statements, email threads, and legal documents. My colleague, Marta Reyes from the Legal Compliance Department, stood behind me, reading over my shoulder. "Lauren, this is serious," Marta said, pointing at the signature authorization form. "See how the pen pressure changes here? And the letter spacing? I'm not a forensic expert, but I've seen enough fraud cases to know this needs professional analysis. Can you recommend someone?" I minimized the screen as another coworker walked by. "My cousin runs a document examination service." "Completely confidential." She scribbled a number on a post-it. "But first, you need everything documented. Every text, email, voicemail. Create a timeline." I'd already started, my notebook filled with dates, times, incidents. The pattern went back further than I'd realized. Carol's control had been tightening like a noose for years. "I need the security footage," I said, pulling up our neighbor's contact. Mrs. Yamamoto had those high-end cameras installed after a package theft last year. They covered her driveway and, coincidentally, our front walkway. The call was brief. Mrs. Yamamoto remembered Thanksgiving evening clearly. She'd seen Carol grab my arm as we arrived, yanking me toward the house while I carried Oliver. "It looked aggressive," she said. "I actually saved the footage because I was concerned. I can email it to you." By lunch, I had 3 videos Stephanie's dining room recording. Mrs. Yamamoto's security footage, and surprisingly, another angle from Cousin Jim's wife, who'd been filming the kids' table when the slap happened. She'd sent it with a simple message: "This wasn't right. Let me know if you need me to testify." The emails painted their own picture. I searched through 3 years of correspondence, finding gems I'd previously overlooked from Carol, dated last March. "If you continue to resist family protocols, measures will be taken to ensure Oliver's future is protected, with or without your cooperation." From Carol, dated July. "Your refusal to add me to the property deed shows your true intentions. This family won't be exploited by an outsider." From Carol, dated 2 weeks ago. "Final warning regarding the education fund transfer. I have ways of ensuring what's best for my grandson." "These read like threats," Marta said, now sitting beside me. "Especially combined with the forged signature. Have you contacted the bank?" "That's my next stop." I pulled up the fraud report form. "But I need more evidence first. The bank submission shows the request came from an IP address. I need to trace it." My phone buzzed. "Ethan, found something. Mom's assistant Patricia submitted incorporation papers for Pike Education Management LLC 3 days before Thanksgiving. Guess who's the sole managing member?" I called him immediately. "She created a shell company to receive the education fund transfer. It's all here in the state business registry. Lauren, she planned this. The fight was probably meant to happen later, but she lost control. Can you get into your mother's home office? I still have my key. She's at her Friday tennis game until noon." "Don't," I said quickly. "We do this legally. But check your dad's old files in your basement. Anything about the family trust structure." While Ethan searched, I dove deeper into the financial maze. The unauthorized bank change had been submitted at 10:23 p.m. On November 20th, while we were at Oliver's school play. The IP address traced to a business center in downtown Maple Ridge. Pike Family Holdings had a satellite office there. My desk phone rang. The bank's fraud department. Ms. Pike, we've received your preliminary report. The signature authorization you questioned has some irregularities. We're freezing the account pending investigation. No funds can be transferred without your physical presence and 2 forms of ID. Small victory, but I wanted more. I pulled up the Pike Family Holdings website, then dove into state corporation filings. Carol was listed as CEO, but the board included 3 other family members: Uncle Robert, Aunt Martha, and surprisingly, Ethan's younger brother David. He'd been quiet at Thanksgiving, but he'd looked sick when Carol slapped me. I found his number. Lauren. He answered on the first ring. I've been expecting your call. You saw what happened. I saw everything, including Mom accessing the family trust computer system at 8:45 that morning, printing documents with your and Ethan's names on them. David, would you? I took photos. He interrupted. Of the documents, the computer screen, everything. Mom's been getting sloppy. She thinks we're all too scared to cross her. Why are you helping me? A long pause. Because she did the same thing to my ex-wife during our divorce. Forged her signature on a loan document, made it look like she was hiding assets. I didn't speak up then. I'm not making that mistake twice. By 4:30 p.m., I had a file 2 inches thick. Financial records, emails, videos, photographs, witness statements. The security footage from Mrs. Yamamoto showed something else interesting. Patricia loading boxes of documents into Carol's Mercedes on November 19th, one day before the bank submission. Build your case like a pyramid, Marta advised as I prepared to leave. Foundation first, then layer by layer, and Lauren get a lawyer. Tonight. The law offices of Whitcomb and Hale occupied the top floor of a restored Victorian building in downtown Maple Ridge. At 9 a.m. Sharp, Monday morning, I sat across from Ava Whitcomb, a woman whose reputation for dismantling financial predators was legendary in 3 counties. Walk me through everything, Ava said, her silver pen poised over a legal pad. She looked exactly like her website photo, sharp cheekbones, steel gray hair in a perfect chignon, eyes that missed nothing. I laid out my evidence in chronological order. The videos played on her laptop. She examined the forged signatures through a magnifying glass. When I showed her David's photos of Carol accessing the trust computers, she made her first note. Your brother-in-law is willing to testify. He's already written a statement. Good. Ava pulled up 3 different legal documents on her screen. Here's our 3-pronged approach. First, we file for an emergency protective order. The video evidence of physical assault, combined with the threats via email, should make this straightforward. Carol won't be allowed within 500 feet of you or Oliver. What about family events? She'll need to leave if you arrive, her choice to commit assault. Ava's tone was matter of fact. Second, we file a formal fraud complaint with the state attorney's office. Forging signatures on financial documents is a felony. The bank's already investigating, which helps our case. And third, we petition the court for an emergency asset freeze on any accounts connected to Pike Education Management LLC and any Pike Family Holdings accounts that show suspicious activity related to Oliver's education fund. She pulled up a financial forensics report template. I'll need you to authorize a full audit, whatever it takes. Ava studied me over her reading glasses. Your husband, where does he stand? He's with me. He's gathering more evidence from his father's old files about the family trust structure. I need to see him too. Today, if possible. She pulled up her calendar. 2 p.m. I texted Ethan, who confirmed immediately. Now, Ava continued, let's discuss the social engineering aspect. Carol will try to turn the family against you. She'll claim you're unstable, that you attacked her, that you're keeping her grandson away out of spite. She's already started. I've gotten 3 texts from various aunts about reconciliation and thinking of Oliver's best interests. Forward them all to me. Don't respond. Ava opened a new document. We're going to create a communication protocol. All contact with Carol goes through lawyers. Any family member who wants to discuss the situation gets a standard response referring them to me. What about Oliver? He's asking about Grandma Carol. Document everything he says. If he mentions the incident, write it down verbatim with date and time. Don't coach him, just record. She pulled out a card. This is Dr. Sarah Hendricks, a child psychologist who specializes in family trauma. She can help Oliver process what he witnessed and provide expert testimony if needed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number with a screenshot Carol had posted on the family Facebook group. Heartbroken that some people would use children as weapons against their own family, praying for reconciliation and healing. Ava looked at the message and smiled coldly. Perfect. She's creating evidence of her own manipulation. Screenshot everything, including the comments. By noon, we'd drafted 3 legal documents. The restraining order petition was devastating in its simplicity facts. Evidence, witnesses. The fraud complaint included bank records, signature analysis, and David's testimony. The asset freeze request mapped out a clear pattern of financial manipulation. One more thing, Ava said as I prepared to leave. Carol will likely retain Mitchell Graves. He's aggressive but predictable. He'll try to intimidate you, claim this is all a misunderstanding, maybe even suggest you're mentally unstable. How do you know? Because that's what he did the last 2 times Carol hired him. She smiled at my shocked expression. Oh yes, this isn't her first rodeo. I represented David's ex-wife. Couldn't prove the forgery, then David wouldn't testify. This time, we have him. At 2 p.m., Ethan arrived with a banker's box of documents. His face was grim. I found something. Dad kept copies of everything. Look at this. He pulled out a document dated 5 years ago. Carol had tried to transfer trust funds from another family member, Ethan's deceased cousin's daughter, into Pike Family Holdings. The girl's mother had fought back, hired a lawyer, and Carol had backed down. There's a pattern, Ethan said. She targets the vulnerable moments, divorces, deaths, new marriages. When people are distracted or emotional, Ava photographed every page. This establishes a pattern of behavior, extremely helpful for the criminal case. Criminal, Ethan paled. Forgery, fraud, attempted theft by deception. Your mother crossed several lines. Ava's voice was gentle but firm. Ethan, I need to know, are you prepared for what this means? Your mother could face jail time. Ethan reached for my hand. She hit my wife. She tried to steal from my son. I'm prepared for whatever comes next. Ava nodded. Then we file everything tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Lauren, be prepared. Once we file, Carol will know war has been officially declared. Good, I said, thinking of Oliver's terrified face, of the blood on my lip, of 3 years of manipulation. Let her know I'm coming. The counterattack came 48 hours after we filed. I was making Oliver's breakfast when the doorbell rang at 6:45 a.m. A process server handed me an envelope thick with legal documents. You've been served, he said, already walking away. Mitchell Graves hadn't wasted time. The cover letter, on his firm's imposing letterhead, outlined Carol's version of events. I was an unstable woman who'd attacked her at Thanksgiving dinner, then conspired to destroy her reputation when she defended herself. She was seeking immediate custody rights for Oliver, claiming I was an unfit mother experiencing a mental health crisis. Ethan, I called, my hands shaking. He read it over my shoulder, face darkening. She's saying you threw the gravy boat at her, that you've been systematically alienating Oliver from his grandmother. Page after page of fabrications. Carol claimed I'd denied her access to Oliver for months. False she'd seen him 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. She alleged I'd stolen money from family accounts projection much. Most disturbing. She'd included affidavits from 2 family members, Aunt Martha and Uncle George, swearing they'd witnessed my erratic behavior at multiple family gatherings. Ava answered on the first ring. I expected this. Bring everything to my office immediately. Within an hour, we were strategizing. Ava had already received calls from 3 reporters Carol was trying to make this public, banking on shame to make us back down. "We respond with facts," Ava said. "First, we subpoena the security footage from the country club where Carol claims you threatened her last month. I happen to know they have cameras in the dining room. I wasn't even there last month. I was in Chicago for a conference. Even better, we'll need your travel records." Ava pulled up her laptop. "Mitchell made a mistake. He's claiming events on specific dates. We can prove you weren't present for half of them." The next twist came that afternoon. Carol had sent a message through Aunt Susan, the family peacemaker. She'd drop everything if we agreed to her terms. Transfer Oliver's college fund to Pike Family Holdings, add her name to our condo deed, and sign an agreement giving her unsupervised visitation rights. "She's panicking," Ava observed. "The bank contacted her about the fraud investigation. She knows we have evidence." But Carol had one more card to play. That evening, Ethan's phone exploded with messages. Carol had called an emergency family meeting, claiming she had proof of my disturbed behavior. David called immediately. "You need to know what she's doing. She's showing edited videos, just to the part where you stood up at dinner, where your hand is raised. She's cut out everything before and after. Can you record the meeting?" "Already am. She's now claiming you've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and that you're off your medication. I'd never been diagnosed with anything." This was pure fabrication, but Carol was selling it hard. She produced a forged medical document on letterhead from a psychiatric practice I'd never heard of. "This is insane," Ethan muttered, watching David's live stream. "No," Ava said, taking screenshots. "This is perfect. She just committed another felony forging medical documents. Call that psychiatric practice tomorrow. When they confirm they've never treated you, we have her for another count of fraud." The family meeting continued for 2 hours. Carol cried on cue, claiming she just wanted to protect Oliver. She showed bank statements doctored to make it look like we were in debt. She even suggested Ethan was being abused, that I'd isolated him from his family. But then David stood up. "Mom, stop," he said clearly. "I have the original video, the whole thing. Should I play it?" The room went silent. Carol's face cycled through emotions: surprise, rage, then calculation. "David, honey, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." He connected his phone to the TV. "I also have screenshots of you accessing the trust computers without authorization and emails where you discussed handling Lauren with Patricia." Carol tried to grab his phone, but David stepped back. "I'm done enabling you, Mom. What you did to Shannon during my divorce was bad enough. I won't let you do it to Lauren." The meeting dissolved into chaos. Family members who'd signed affidavits suddenly wanted to reconsider their statements. Uncle George admitted Carol had written his statement for him. Aunt Martha claimed she'd been confused about what she was signing. By 10:30 p.m., Ava had received 6 retractions and 4 new witness statements supporting our version of events. Stephanie had shared her video with 5 family members, and the tide was turning. "Tomorrow, Carol will get desperate," Ava warned. "Real desperation. Be ready for anything." She was right. The next morning, Carol's final attempt arrived: a letter from Mitchell Graves suggesting Carol might press criminal assault charges against me unless we dropped everything. Ava actually laughed. "She assaulted you in front of 20 witnesses, and she wants to press charges. Mitchell must be desperate to even send this." I looked at the letter, then at Ava. "File everything, the fraud charges, the restraining order, all of it, and add the forged medical documents to the complaint. Are you sure once we do this, she tried to steal from my child and destroy my family? File it all?" The courtroom smelled of old wood and floor polish. December 15th, 9 a.m. Judge Patricia Thornton presiding over the emergency restraining order hearing. I sat between Ava and Ethan, my hands folded to stop them from shaking. Across the aisle, Carol wore her best victim costume, a conservative navy suit, pearl necklace, reading glasses she didn't need perched on her nose. Your Honor," Mitchell Graves began, standing with theatrical gravity. This is simply a family disagreement that's been blown out of proportion. Mrs. Carol Pike is a pillar of the Maple Ridge community, a devoted grandmother who's being denied access to her grandson over a misunderstanding. Judge Thornton, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, looked unimpressed. Mr. Graves, I've reviewed the submitted evidence. Would you characterize a physical assault as a misunderstanding? There's dispute about what actually occurred. Then let's clarify. The judge nodded to Ava. Ms. Whitcomb, please present your evidence. Ava connected her laptop to the courtroom screen. Your Honor, we have 3 separate videos of the incident from different angles. The dining room scene played out in high definition. Carol's hand connecting with my face. The sound of the slap. Oliver's scream. The judge's expression hardened as she watched Carol smooth her sweater and tell me I needed to learn my place. We also have security footage from the neighbor showing Mrs. Pike aggressively grabbing my client earlier that evening. The second video played Carol yanking my arm hard enough that I stumbled, Oliver nearly falling from my grasp. Mitchell stood. Your Honor, emotions run high during holidays. Sit down, Mr. Graves. Judge Thornton's voice was steel. Ms. Whitcomb, continue. Ava pulled up the emails, each threat displayed on screen, dated and time-stamped. Then came David's testimony, read aloud by the court clerk since he was present as a witness. On November 20th, I observed my mother, Carol Pike, accessing the Pike Family Holdings computer system and printing documents related to Lauren and Ethan Pike's financial accounts. When I questioned her, she said she was taking preventive measures and that Lauren would learn her place one way or another. Carol's perfectly composed facade cracked. She whispered furiously to Mitchell, who stood again. Your Honor, David Pike has been estranged from his mother since his divorce. His testimony is biased. Is he lying? Judge Thornton asked directly. Well, no, but then his relationship with his mother is irrelevant to the facts he's presenting. Then came the moment I'd been dreading and anticipating. Ava called her expert witness, Dr. Marcus Webb, a forensic document examiner. The signatures on the bank authorization forms are forgeries, he stated simply, showing enlarged comparisons on screen. Note the hesitation marks here. The unnatural pen lifts here. Someone was tracing or copying these signatures. Can you determine who created these forgeries? Ava asked. I can't identify the forger, but I can confirm neither Mr. nor Mrs. Pike signed these documents. Judge Thornton turned to Carol. Mrs. Pike, would you like to address these allegations? Carol stood, and for a moment, I saw the real her, not the society matron, but the calculating predator underneath. Your Honor, I've only ever tried to protect my family's interests. If documents were signed incorrectly, it was a miscommunication with my assistant. As for the incident at Thanksgiving, Lauren provoked me. She's been systematically turning my son against me, denying me access to my grandson. Stop! Judge Thornton held up a hand. I've heard enough. Mrs. Pike, do you deny striking Mrs. Lauren Pike? A pause. She was hysterical. I was trying to calm the situation. That's not what I asked. Did you strike her? Carol's mouth opened, closed. I may have made contact, while her 3-year-old child watched silence. Judge Thornton began writing. The scratching of her pen was the only sound in the courtroom. Finally, she looked up. I'm granting the emergency restraining order. Mrs. Carol Pike, you are prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Lauren Pike or Oliver Pike. This includes their home, Oliver's school, and Mrs. Lauren Pike's workplace. Carol gasped. Your Honor, he's my grandson, whom you traumatized by assaulting his mother in front of him. The judge's voice was ice. Furthermore, I'm forwarding all evidence of potential fraud and forgery to the district attorney's office for criminal investigation. But then Ethan stood. Everyone turned. Your Honor, may I speak? Judge Thornton nodded. I'm Ethan Pike, Carol Pike's son. His voice was steady, clear. I need the court to know that I support my wife completely. My mother has used financial manipulation and emotional abuse to control our family for years. I've been too weak to stop it before, but I won't let her hurt my wife or son anymore." Carol's face went white. "Ethan, how could I protect my family from you?" He turned to face her directly. "The same way David should have protected Shannon. The same way Dad wanted to protect all of us before he died." The mention of Ethan's father seemed to break something in Carol. She sagged in her chair, the fight leaving her. Judge Thornton made additional notes. "The restraining order is granted and effective immediately. I'm also ordering a freeze on any financial accounts related to Oliver Pike pending investigation. Court is adjourned." As we filed out, Carol tried one last manipulation. "Oliver will hate you for this when he's older," she hissed at me. I stopped, turned, and looked her directly in the eye. "No, Carol. He'll remember the day his grandmother hit his mother, and he'll remember that his parents stood up to protect him." We walked out of the courthouse into bright December sunshine. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like I could truly breathe. The forensic audit began 3 days after the restraining order was granted. Harborlight Forensics sent a team of 3 specialists to comb through Pike Family Holdings' financial records. By December 20th, they'd uncovered a labyrinth of deceit that went deeper than even I'd imagined. "Mrs. Pike, you need to see this," lead auditor James Harrington said, spreading documents across Ava's conference table. "The Pike Education Management LLC wasn't the first shell company. We've found 7 others, all created in the last 5 years. Each company had received transfers from Pike Family Holdings. Each had a vague name suggesting educational or charitable purposes. None had any actual operations. This one," Harrington pointed to a spreadsheet, "received $40,000 labeled as educational consulting. The money was then transferred to a personal account belonging to Patricia Morse, Carol Pike's assistant." "Kickbacks?" Ava asked. "Or payment for services?" Patricia's signature appears on multiple documents as a witness. Documents that were supposedly signed at different locations on the same day, 3 hours apart, in cities 200 miles from each other. I studied the web of transactions. "What about Oliver's college fund?" Harrington pulled up another screen. "Here's where it gets interesting. November 20th, 9:47 p.m. Someone logged into the account from IP address 192.168.1.47. That's the Pike Family Holdings office network. They initiated a transfer request for $35,000 to Pike Education Management LLC. But the transfer didn't complete. You reported the fraud in time. The bank froze it." He clicked to another tab. "But here's what we also found: similar attempted transfers from 3 other family members' education funds, all in the past 2 years. 2 went through before anyone noticed." My phone buzzed. David was texting frantically. "Mom's at the office with Patricia. They're shredding documents." I called immediately. "Can you get there?" "Already in the parking lot. I have a key." "Don't go in alone. Call the police. There's a restraining order, and she's destroying evidence." 20 minutes later, David sent a photo. 2 police cars outside Pike Family Holdings, Carol being escorted out in handcuffs while Patricia carried boxes of half-shredded documents. Ava smiled grimly. Obstruction of justice, destroying evidence under subpoena. Carol just added criminal charges to her problems. The next morning, Harrington presented his most damaging discovery. "We've traced the pattern back 7 years. Every time a family member was vulnerable: divorce, death, illness, money moved from their accounts to these shell companies. Total misappropriated funds approximately $480,000. How did no one notice? Carol provided the family financial reports. She'd show gains in investments while hiding the withdrawals. Classic Ponzi behavior, using new family money to cover old thefts." Ethan had been silent throughout the presentation. Finally, he spoke. "My father's life insurance. Mom said it was invested for the family trust. How much actually made it there?" Harrington consulted his files. The policy paid out $500,000. $300,000 was properly deposited. The rest. He pulled up a transaction record. transferred to CMP Holdings LLC, then dispersed to various accounts, including a property in Florida titled solely to Carol Pike. She stole Dad's life insurance. Ethan's voice cracked. The audit revealed more. Carol had been taking management fees of 20% from every trust distribution. She'd sold family property below market value to buyers who kicked back money to her shell companies. She'd even mortgaged the family estate, which was supposed to be held in trust to cover her investment losses. "This is criminal enterprise," Ava said. "RICO statute could apply. This isn't just fraud, it's organized crime." That afternoon, we met with Assistant District Attorney Michelle Rodriguez. She reviewed the evidence with the intensity of a hunter who'd spotted prey. "We have enough for multiple felony charges," she said. "Fraud, forgery, embezzlement, money laundering. With the evidence destruction, we can add obstruction. Mrs. Pike is looking at 15 to 20 years if convicted on all counts." "What about restitution?" I asked. "The court can order full repayment plus penalties. Every family member who lost money could be made whole." Ethan received a call that evening from Uncle Robert, who served on the Pike Family Holdings Board. "We're calling an emergency meeting. The board is voting to remove Carol immediately and freeze all her access. We need you there. Ethan." "Will you go?" I asked. "We both will. It's time to end this properly." December 22nd, 4 p.m. The Pike Family Holdings boardroom had never been so full. 23 family members, 3 lawyers, and 2 auditors crowded around the mahogany table where Carol had once held court. Uncle Robert called the vote. All in favor of removing Carol Pike as CEO and trustee. Every hand rose except one Aunt Martha, who abstained. "Motion carries. Ethan Pike. Will you accept temporary oversight of the family holdings until we can restructure?" Ethan looked at me. I nodded. "I accept, with full transparency going forward. Every transaction public to all family members, no more secrets." The room erupted in agreement. For the first time in years, the Pike family was united against the woman who'd tried to rob them all. That night, as we put Oliver to bed, he asked, "Is Grandma Carol in trouble?" "Yes, sweetheart. She made some bad choices. Like hitting, and taking things that weren't hers." He thought about this. "Will she say sorry?" I smoothed his hair. "I don't know. Baby." But Oliver, with the wisdom of children, said, "She should. That's what you taught me. When you hurt someone, you say sorry and make it better." If only it were that simple. The church fellowship hall felt smaller with the weight of anticipation filling it. January 10th, 2 p.m. The Pike family's attempt at mediation, orchestrated by Uncle Robert and Aunt Susan. They'd chosen neutral ground, thinking it might diffuse tensions. They were wrong. I entered with Ava at my side, Ethan close behind. Oliver was safe at school, away from whatever drama would unfold. Carol sat at the far end of the long table, flanked by Mitchell Graves and Patricia, though Patricia now had her own lawyer present. 20 family members lined the walls like witnesses at an execution. Ava set up her laptop, connected it to the projection screen the church used for Sunday school. "Before anyone speaks about reconciliation," she began, "the family needs to see the full truth." The presentation was devastating in its precision. Bank records, forged signatures, shell companies each slide a nail in Carol's coffin. When we reached the slide showing the theft from her deceased cousin's daughter's trust, several aunts gasped. "That's Jennifer's college money," Aunt Martha whispered. "Carol said it was invested." "It was," Ava said, "in a beach house in Carol's name." Then came the audio. David had given us one final piece of evidence, a recording from his phone, placed in his pocket during a conversation with Carol and Patricia 3 days before Thanksgiving. Carol's voice filled the room. "If that little nobody thinks she can keep me from controlling what's rightfully mine, she's about to learn otherwise. Get me those signatures, Patricia. I don't care how." Patricia's response. "The bank might question. The bank won't question anything if we do it right. We've done it before with David's wife. This one's even easier, she's too trusting. The room was tomb silent. Carol's face had gone from red to white to gray. Ava clicked to the final slide, a settlement agreement. Mrs. Pike can sign this now, or we proceed with criminal prosecution. The terms were simple but harsh: full confession and formal apology to be filed with the court, immediate resignation from all family positions, repayment of all stolen funds plus 30% penalty, permanent restraining order, transfer of all family trust control to an independent fiduciary, forfeiture of any claim to Oliver's education fund or any family member's assets. This is extortion. Mitchell Graves sputtered. No, Ada Rodriguez said, entering the room. I hadn't known she'd be here. This is mercy. The alternative is 20 years in federal prison. Carol's hands shook as she reached for the document. Then Oliver's voice echoed in my memory. Stop. Just like at Thanksgiving. But this time, I was the one with power. Wait, I said. Everyone turned. I want something else. Carol looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. A recorded apology. To Oliver. Explaining that hitting is wrong, that taking things that aren't yours is wrong, and that hurting family is wrong. You can't be serious, or we go to trial. My voice was steel. Your choice. Carol's mask finally shattered completely. Tears, real ones, streamed down her face. But I felt nothing. She'd made Oliver cry. She'd tried to steal his future. With shaking hands, Carol signed every page. Ava produced a phone, hit record, and Carol spoke the words that would become part of the court record, her apology to a 3-year-old boy who deserved better than a grandmother who'd put greed before love. When she finished, the room remained silent. Family members began filing out, no one meeting Carol's eyes. David stopped beside her. Dad would be ashamed, he said quietly, then walked away. Patricia was arrested on the spot, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit fraud. She'd flipped immediately, agreeing to testify against Carol in exchange for probation. As we prepared to leave, Carol made one last attempt. Lauren, please, let me see him. Just once. To say goodbye properly. I looked at this woman who'd terrorized me for 3 years, who'd stolen from children, who'd hit me in front of my baby. No. I'm his grandmother. You were his grandmother. Now you're just someone who hurt his mother. Ethan took my hand. We're done here. We walked out of that fellowship hall into a bright January afternoon. Behind us, Carol sat alone at the table, Mitchell Graves packing his briefcase, the projection screen still showing the list of her crimes. In the parking lot, Stephanie waited by our car. I wanted you to know I'm proud of you. We all are. You did what none of us had the courage to do. That evening, Ethan and I sat with Oliver as he played with his dinosaurs. The house felt different, lighter, like windows had been opened after a long winter. Mommy, Oliver said suddenly, are we safe now? Yes, baby, we're safe. Good. He went back to his toys, making roaring sounds. Ethan pulled me close. You know what today is? January 10th. The day you won. The day we got our family back. I thought about Carol, probably sitting in her empty mansion, surrounded by the things she'd stolen, facing federal charges and family exile. I thought about the beach house she'd bought with a dead girl's college fund. I thought about her hand across my face. I felt no sympathy. Some people earn their isolation. 3 months later, the criminal trial ended with Carol pleading guilty to 8 felony counts. She received 5 years in federal prison, with possibility of parole in 3. The beach house was sold. The money returned to Jennifer's trust with interest. Every stolen penny was accounted for. Every family member made whole. Oliver never asked about her again. As I write this story, it's been 2 years since that Thanksgiving night. Oliver is 5 now, thriving in kindergarten, unafraid to stand up when he sees wrong. He doesn't remember much about that night, just that Grandma Carol was mean to Mommy. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about revealing who they really were all along. Carol Pike built her empire on theft and lies. All I did was turn on the lights. She's eligible for parole next year. I've already written my victim impact statement opposing it. I won't look back, but I won't forget either. Never again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your own experiences and perspectives mean everything to this community. Until next time, stay strong and never let anyone dim your light.